There is a secret empire hiding in plain sight, a multi-billion-dollar kingdom built on a simple pattern of beige, black and red. Its signature is more famous than some national flags, and its key weapon, a coat that costs $2,590, is the unofficial uniform for spies, movie stars, and literal royalty. This isn't just a brand, it's a global institution with a market capitalization that has soared past $10 billion, with hundreds of stores strategically placed in over 50 countries like embassies of British style. It has dressed soldiers for the muddy hell of world wars, explorers for the most dangerous, godforsaken places on Earth, and the most powerful family on the planet for over a century. If you love hearing the crazy, untold backstories of the world's most famous and powerful brands, you have to smash that subscribe button and give this video a like. Honestly, it helps us a ton and lets us make more content just like this for you. Let's rewind the clock. It's the mid-1800s in England. The weather is, to put it mildly, miserable. It's a constant, soul-crushing cycle of drizzle, rain, and fog. And trying to stay dry is a complete nightmare. The so-called raincoats of the day were basically heavy, stinky rubber blankets that were stiff, uncomfortable, and trapped sweat so badly you'd end up soaked from the inside out. It was awful. People had to choose between being wet from the rain or wet from their own perspiration. Then, a 21-year-old guy named Thomas Burberry, a former draper's apprentice working in the small, unassuming market town of Basingstoke, had a totally bonkers idea. He wasn't a fancy Parisian designer, he was a practical inventor, an obsessive problem solver. He looked at the dreadful state of outerwear and thought, this is garbage. There has to be a better way. He dreamed of creating a coat that could not only repel water, but also let your body breathe. It was a simple goal that would prove to be revolutionary. This idea, born not in a glamorous atelier but in a humble English shop, was about to start an earthquake that would change fashion forever. This wasn't just some clothing store. Burberry's entire empire was built on a single, genius invention that was his secret weapon, Gabardine. This was his light bulb moment, his version of striking oil. In 1879, while everyone else was still messing around with those gross, sticky rubber coatings, Thomas Burberry had a flash of brilliance. He developed a completely new method where he waterproofed the individual cotton threads before they were even woven together into fabric. He then wove these treated threads incredibly tightly. The result was a material that felt like a miracle. It was shockingly lightweight, tough as nails, breathable, and could stop a downpour in its tracks. He patented this miracle fabric in 1888, and suddenly he wasn't just a shopkeeper anymore. He was a world-famous inventor, a mad scientist of textiles. His company was on its way to becoming a global superpower, built on the frankly insane idea of making raincoats that didn't suck. How did he get the word out? He didn't need to buy advertisements. He just gave his cutting-edge gear to the craziest, most daring adventurers on the planet. Think of it as the most extreme and authentic influencer marketing campaign of all time. These weren't Instagram models posing with a product. These were tough-as-nails explorers whose very lives depended on their equipment. Norwegian polar explorer Dr. Fridtjof Nansen took Burberry Gabardine to the freezing Arctic Circle in 1893. In 1911, Roald Amundsen and his entire team, clad head to toe in Burberry gear and protected by a Burberry tent, became the first people in human history to reach the South Pole. His rival, Captain Robert Falcon Scott, was also equipped with Burberry on his own tragic expedition. Even the legendary Sir Ernest Shackleton, a man whose name is synonymous with impossible endurance, swore by Burberry. He wore it on 3 separate Antarctic expeditions and was so convinced of its superiority that he even used the gabardine fabric to protect his car's engine from freezing solid in the Antarctic cold. Mountaineer George Mallory was wearing a Burberry gabardine jacket during his fateful attempt on Mount Everest in 1924. These real-life heroes, battling the planet's harshest environments, made the brand a legend. Their survival was the ultimate 5-star review. Then came the brand's biggest and most defining power move. At the dawn of the 20th century, with the storm clouds of World War I gathering, the British War Office needed a better, more practical coat for its officers. The old greatcoats were heavy, cumbersome, and useless in the wet, muddy conditions of modern warfare. Burberry stepped up. Drawing on his patented gabardine and an earlier coat design, he created a functional masterpiece. The soldiers themselves, huddled in the miserable, rat-infested trenches of the Western Front, gave it its immortal name, the trench coat. Every single detail of the coat was a piece of brilliant military engineering. The flaps on the shoulders, called epaulettes, they were for securing gloves or displaying an officer's rank. That extra flap of fabric on the chest, that was a gun flap, designed to provide another layer of protection. The distinctive D-rings on the belt, they were for hanging grenades, map cases, and swords. It wasn't designed to be a fashion item. It was a piece of high-performance military hardware, but the design was so perfect, so timelessly stylish, that it transcended its bloody origins. After the war, returning officers kept wearing their coats, and it immediately became the ultimate status symbol. Today, that same basic design, still made with painstaking care in Castleford, England, a process involving over 80 separate pieces and a collar stitch so complex it takes a tailor an entire year to master, will cost you a cool $2,590. It went from the battlefield to the runway, becoming the most famous and legendary coat in the history of the world. If you're blown away by how this brand literally went to war and came back a fashion icon, you need to hit that like button and subscribe right now, because the story is about to get even crazier and a whole lot messier. After the war, the trench coat's fame exploded. It became a global superstar, thanks in no small part to the magic of Hollywood. The silver screen took its rugged, adventurous spirit and infused it with an irresistible aura of mystery and glamour. Humphrey Bogart, shrouded in his trench coat in the final foggy scene of Casablanca, cemented its association with world-weary, masculine elegance. Nearly 2 decades later, Audrey Hepburn, looking impossibly chic in Breakfast at Tiffany's, forever linked the garment with timeless feminine style. From Catherine Deneuve to Meryl Streep, the biggest stars in the world wore the trench, turning it into a cultural staple. But hidden inside that famous coat was a secret weapon, a pattern that was about to go on a wild journey from a subtle detail to a global phenomenon, and then to a public relations disaster. That weapon was the Burberry check. For nearly half a century, this iconic pattern of camel, black, white, and red was just a simple lining. It was a secret, an insider's detail that only the owner of the coat knew about. It whispered quality, it didn't shout. Then, in a moment of pure, spontaneous creativity in the Paris store in 1967, a buyer had a flash of inspiration. She took the check lining out of a coat and used it to wrap luggage and create an umbrella cover. In that single instant, bam, the check was unleashed upon the world. By the 1980s and 90s, it was a full-blown obsession. The pattern was no longer hidden. It was the main event. It was on cashmere scarves woven in Scotland, on handbags, on shirts, on everything. It became a powerful, instantly recognizable symbol of luxury, wealth, and traditional British upper-class life. But this incredible success planted a ticking time bomb right at the heart of the brand. Its greatest asset was about to become its greatest liability, setting the stage for a catastrophe of epic proportions. While its clothes and patterns were taking over the world of fashion, Burberry was cementing its power through a different, even more potent alliance. For over a century, the brand has been deeply intertwined with the British royal family. This is a marketing advantage you literally cannot buy. It's the ultimate seal of approval. The brand holds multiple royal warrants, which is basically the king giving you an official thumbs up, a public declaration that your stuff is the best of the best, fit for a monarch. Burberry got its first warrant in 1919 from King George V, another in 1955 from Queen Elizabeth II for being her official weatherproofer, and another in 1990 from the then Prince of Wales. But forget the formal documents. The real, mind-blowing power comes from seeing the royals actually wear the stuff in their daily lives. The late Queen Elizabeth II, a picture of steadfast, no-nonsense British style, was frequently photographed in her practical Burberry trench coats on rainy days. A young Lady Diana Spencer, before she was a princess, helped popularise a more relaxed Sloane Ranger country chic look often snapped in Burberry. Today, that influence has gone into overdrive. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is like a walking, talking, one-woman Burberry marketing machine. The Kate effect is a well-documented phenomenon. Every time she wears one of their trench coats or scarves, it causes an internet meltdown, and the item sells out almost instantly, driving sales spikes that other brands would kill for. Even Meghan Markle, on a royal visit to Scotland, masterfully used a striking green and blue Burberry tartan coat as an act of sartorial diplomacy, generating headlines across the globe. The value of that kind of organic publicity is simply priceless. It reinforces Burberry's status as the definitive, authentic, and undisputed king of British luxury. But then, just as it seemed Burberry was untouchable, disaster struck. The empire began to crumble from the inside out. The late 1990s and early 2000s were a dark, dark time for the brand. Its most famous asset, the beloved check, became its worst enemy. Thanks to years of reckless licensing deals, the company had lost control. The sacred pattern was being slapped on everything imaginable, from cheap baseball caps to dog leashes. A flood of low-quality fakes made it even worse. The check went from being a symbol of exclusive luxury to something you could see anywhere and everywhere. In Britain, it became the unofficial uniform of Chavs, a pejorative term for a working-class subculture known for flashy, brand-heavy style d'uniform, and it became heavily associated with football hooliganism. The symbol of the super rich was now seen as cheap, tacky, and aggressive. It was a brand nightmare. The situation got so dire that some pubs and clubs literally banned people from entering if they were wearing the Burberry check. Imagine that! Your brand, once the pinnacle of class, is now so toxic that you're getting turned away at the door of a local bar. The brand's image was in a complete death spiral. The symbolic rock bottom came in 2002, when the actress Daniela Westbrook, famous for her public struggles, was photographed head to toe in Burberry check. Even her baby was decked out in it. That single devastating photo became the poster for Burberry's fall from grace. The brand wasn't just uncool, it was a joke. Its century of cultivated prestige had evaporated. It was toxic. The revival was nothing short of a strategic masterclass, a high-stakes rescue mission orchestrated by visionary leaders like CEO Rose Marie Bravo and a brilliant young British designer named Christopher Bailey. What they did was not just bold, it was insane. First, they launched a heist in reverse. They spent a fortune, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, on the painful and difficult process of buying back all 23 of the global licenses that had allowed their check to proliferate like a virus. It was a bet-the-company move to regain absolute control. Then they did the unthinkable. They took their most famous, most recognizable asset, and they hid it. In a gutsy, almost suicidal move, Bailey and his team surgically removed the iconic check from 95% of their products. The production of the items most associated with the Chav image, like the check baseball cap, was stopped entirely. They effectively starved the world of the pattern, forcing it back into rarity and making it special again. With the check locked away in the vault, they refocused the entire narrative on the brand's true, authentic core. The incredible craftsmanship of the trench coat, the legacy of Thomas Burberry, the innovator, and the epic story of outfitting adventurers. They invested heavily in high-fashion marketing, using credible British icons like supermodel Kate Moss and actress Emma Watson to re-establish the brand's luxury credentials. They moved their runway show from Milan back to London, instantly making it the headline event of London Fashion Week. It was a complete and total reset, a legendary turnaround that became the textbook case study for how to reclaim a brand's soul from the brink of death. The years since have been a dramatic battle for Burberry's soul, with the creative direction swinging like a pendulum. Christopher Bailey's 17-year tenure not only completed the rescue, but turned the brand into a digital pioneer, live streaming shows and launching See Now, Buy Now collections years before anyone else. He made Burberry feel quintessentially British, romantic and cool again. After he left, the pendulum swung hard. Riccardo Tisci, famous for his work at Givenchy, came in and injected a dose of edgy, global, streetwear-infused style. He got rid of the old logo and introduced a new minimalist TB monogram, chasing a younger, more international consumer and trying to align Burberry with the trends sweeping other European luxury houses. His vision was less about Britishness and more about being part of the global fashion conversation. Now, the pendulum has swung back with incredible force. The appointment of a new creative chief, Daniel Lee, in 2022 signaled a deliberate, emphatic, and unapologetic return to roots. One of his very first acts was to scrap Tisci's modern logo and immediately restore the archival equestrian knight design from 1901. It was a powerful statement. His declared vision is to create a modern British luxury, one that is functional, progressive, and deeply connected to the culture, landscape, and weather of Britain. It's a constant tug-of-war, a high-stakes debate playing out on the world stage. Should Burberry be a classic British icon or a trendy global brand? Did you love this unbelievable story of branding, crisis, and comeback? Well, don't go anywhere. Hit subscribe and like this video so you don't miss our next dive into the world of crazy luxury. Now, while Burberry's story of survival is wild, to truly understand its place in the world, you have to look at the battlefield it's fighting on. The world of luxury is a war of the titans, and Burberry's rivals are absolute monsters. First, you have to contend with the French beast, LVMH, Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton. This isn't a brand, it's a luxury-devouring black hole, run by the ridiculously wealthy Bernard Arnault. One of the richest men on the planet, LVMH is a sprawling empire of over 75 of the world's most famous brands, including Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Tiffany & Company, and Sephora. Its total market value is a mind-boggling $400 billion. LVMH's strategy isn't to have a single identity. Its game is to own the entire luxury universe. While Burberry has one iconic, deep story, LVMH owns the entire library. It's a level of market dominance that is frankly terrifying. Then you've got the king of quiet, terrifyingly expensive luxury, Hermès. Forget flashy patterns and logos. Hermès's power is built on a foundation of pure, painstaking craftsmanship, symbolized by a single handbag, the Birkin. This bag is so exclusive, it has become a modern myth. You can't just walk into a store and buy one, no matter how much money you have. There are insane, unacknowledged waiting lists, and you basically have to be chosen by the brand to be offered the chance to purchase one. The price? It can range from $10,000 to over $2 million for a single bag at auction. Hermès doesn't shout, it whispers, and its whisper is more powerful and intimidating than any scream. It represents a level of raw, unadulterated exclusivity that Burberry, with its global footprint, can only dream of. And you can't forget Burberry's direct rival in the world of iconic patterns, Gucci. Now owned by the French group Kering, Gucci's GG logo and its green and red stripe are as globally recognized as the Burberry check. But Gucci's strategy, especially over the last few decades, has been one of constant high-octane reinvention. Under Tom Ford in the 90s, the brand was injected with a potent dose of sex appeal and glamour that saved it from bankruptcy. More recently, under Alessandro Michele, it transformed into a maximalist geek chic universe that defined the aesthetic of an entire generation. Gucci is a brilliant chameleon, always changing its skin to match the times. Burberry's strength, by contrast, is that it always finds its way back to its core identity, that legendary trench coat, that story of innovation, and its deep, unshakable British soul. Do you think Burberry, with its deep British heritage and legendary trench coat, has enough firepower to truly compete against these other global monsters in the long run? Drop your answer in the comments below. I really want to know who you think is winning the war for luxury. And if you enjoyed this wild ride, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into extravagance. Now that Burberry has reclaimed its identity, what other iconic, tarnished brand is most in need of a similar rescue mission?